Welcome to the My Citizen Agency channel. If you are thinking about moving to Europe, you are probably interested not just in a residence permit, but in full EU citizenship, with the right to live, work, study and travel without restrictions throughout the EU. Today, I will tell you in detail what paths to EU citizenship are relevant in 2025, what really works. Our goal is to show you real, legal, and workable options. We will not talk about complicated schemes or promises, only what works legally and with the prospect of success. The shortest and most stable path to a European passport is repatriation, namely restoration of citizenship by origin. This path is based on one of the basic principles of law in the EU, the right of blood. If your ancestors had citizenship of a European country or belonged to the relevant ethnic group, you can claim citizenship by birthright, even if you have never lived in Europe yourself. Unlike naturalization, it does not require residence in the country, residence permit or permanent residence, and as a rule, there are no language or history exams. The main thing is to document your origin. This can be birth, marriage, death certificate of an ancestor, archival extracts, records in metric books, passports and other certificates from the times of empires or unions. The following destinations are open in 2025: Slovenia, a relatively new opportunity that many people are not yet aware of. It is suitable for those who had ancestors who were Slovene by nationality or subjects of Yugoslavia, born on the territory of modern Slovenia. The legal basis is Article 12 of the Slovenian Citizenship Act. A foreign citizen who can prove Slovenian ancestry up to the second generation can obtain citizenship without residence. Confirmation takes place through archival documents, registration books, nationality certificates. Timeline, about 4-12 months. Advantages, high legal stability, European passport, low competition. Romania, one of the most affordable programs, provided for by Article 10 of Law number 21 from 1991 on citizenship. If your ancestors were born or lived on the territory of former Romania before 1940, you can restore Romanian citizenship. The main thing is to prove that your ancestor belonged to the Romanian citizenship on that date. The procedure goes through the Ministry of Justice, includes the submission of an application, verification of documents, and swearing an oath. Time frame: from 6 to 14 months, passport is issued after the oath. Bulgaria. The basis is descent from a Bulgarian in a direct line. This is confirmed by extracts from archives, church metrics, or birth certificates. The application is made through the DABCH, Agency for Bulgarians Abroad, then the Ministry of Justice. The procedure includes an interview, submission of documents, and passing the commission. Timeline: from 6 to 14 months. Poland, Lithuania, Czech Republic, Hungary. These destinations also provide an opportunity to obtain citizenship by descent, but with a number of difficulties. In Poland, it is necessary to prove not only the origin, but also the actual connection with Polish culture, knowledge of the language, participation in the Polish diaspora, etc. In Lithuania, restoration of citizenship is allowed if ancestors were citizens before 1940, but the program is strictly limited. In the Czech Republic and Hungary, the programs are aimed at descendants of Czechs and Hungarians by blood, but good language skills and lengthy document checks are required. Common to all cases, high complexity of evidence, strict interpretation of ancestry, possible bureaucratic delays. What does repatriation give? Simplified procedure, often without residency and language tests. Possibility not to renounce your current citizenship. Obtaining a passport in 1 year without long waiting times or expensive investments. Transfer of citizenship to children and spouse, depending on the country. If you have roots in one of these countries, this is a chance worth exploring first. It does not require relocation, integration, or years of waiting. It just needs an evidence base and the right strategy. The second path to EU citizenship is naturalization, namely, obtaining a passport after living in the country legally for many years. This way is suitable for those who are ready to live in the country, integrate into society, comply with the laws, pay taxes, and pass all the necessary stages, from residence permit to citizenship. What is the essence of naturalization? First, you get a residence permit, for example, on the basis of work, study, business, financial independence, or family reunification. After a few years, if the conditions are met, you apply for a permanent residence permit. After that, after a certain period of time, you can apply for citizenship. It is important to understand, in most EU countries, naturalization is not a right, but an opportunity. That is, even if all the requirements are met, the decision always rests with the competent authorities. Let's consider the terms and peculiarities for some countries. Germany. As of 2024, updated rules have come into force in Germany. It is now possible to obtain citizenship after 5 years of residence, and even after 3 years in case of particularly successful integration. What is meant by successful integration? Good command of the German language, employment, absence of violations, active participation in social life. It is also obligatory to pass the B1 language exam, knowledge of the constitutional system and laws, integration test, have stable income and housing. Spain, one of the most conservative countries when it comes to citizenship. The general term is 10 years of continuous residence. Exceptions apply only to natives of Latin America, Andorra, the Philippines, and some former colonies. They have a period of 2 years. Mandatory conditions: passing the Spanish language exam, DELE, passing a test on the knowledge of Spanish culture and laws, CCSE, proof of full integration into society. Spain also almost always requires renunciation of previous citizenship, except in countries with which agreements have been concluded. Portugal, one of the most liberal and accessible EU countries in terms of naturalization. The period of residence to apply for citizenship is only 5 years and not necessarily continuous. It is possible to reside intermittently. The main thing is to observe the total period of residence. The level of Portuguese language is A2, which is basic. There are no strict income or integration requirements. Also, Portugal does not require renunciation of current citizenship. This makes it attractive for those who want to keep their country's passport. Italy, the standard term is 10 years of residence in the country with a permanent residence permit. The process of naturalization is long and bureaucratic. You need a certificate of knowledge of the Italian language at a level not lower than B1, proof of stable income for the last 3 years, no criminal record, and no problems with the migration regime. Also, Italy carefully checks integration, your employment, social activity, knowledge of culture. Waiting for a decision on the application can take up to 2 years after submission. General conditions for all EU countries: presence of legal residence, residence permit, proven level of language proficiency, financial stability, taxes, housing, no debts. Absence of criminal record and administrative violations. In some countries, renunciation of previous citizenship. For whom is naturalization suitable? For those who already live in the EU or are planning to move. For people who are ready for real integration, work, language, taxes, for families who want to build a long-term future in Europe. If you have no grounds for repatriation, but you plan to live in the EU and are ready to go step by step, naturalization remains a reliable, albeit not fast, way of obtaining citizenship. If you expect to simply invest money and get an EU passport, we hasten to warn you. In 2025, there are practically no such programs left. Once there were dozens of schemes for obtaining citizenship through investments: Cyprus, Bulgaria, Malta, Hungary, Portugal. But after increased pressure from the European Commission, most states closed or suspended their golden passports. Today, virtually the only EU country where it is still possible to obtain citizenship directly for investment is Malta. To date, Malta remains the only EU state that officially grants citizenship in exchange for an economic contribution under the exceptional services by direct investment. What is required? Irrevocable contribution to a public fund. 600,000 euros or 750,000 euros depending on the length of residence before filing. Donation to charitable organizations, 10,000 euros, renting a home from 16,000 euros per year, or buying a property worth 700,000 euros or more. Compulsory residence in Malta for 1 or 3 years before filing. Rigorous source of income and security checks. The dossier is assessed at the level of intelligence services. Each applicant undergoes a comprehensive due diligence. Total cost can exceed 1 million euros, especially when buying real estate. Important, the program is executed through licensed agencies, directly with government bodies. The Cyprus Investment Residence Program allows permanent residence. It does not issue an EU passport. The minimum investment is 300,000 euros in real estate, new construction or commercial property, or in shares in Cypriot companies, investment funds. Income outside Cyprus must not be less than 50,000 euros per year, plus 15,000 euros per spouse and 10,000 euros per child. Permanent residency status is processed within 2 to 4 months and is valid indefinitely, but biannual visits are sufficient. Although investment does not directly give a passport, after 5-8 years of residence with a permanent residence permit, it is possible to apply for citizenship, with the fulfillment of all the conditions of naturalization: housing, language skills, absence of violations. Austria is one of the few EU countries where it is possible to obtain citizenship through investments, although not through the template way, invested, received. Instead, there is an exclusive scheme, including investment residence permit and then naturalization. Austria offers several programs for obtaining a residence permit through investment. Investor, self-employed program, red, white, red card. Requires 100,000 euros or more to invest in a business that benefits the economy. Jobs, technology, exports. Permanent residence, settlement permit, can be obtained after 21 months from the start. Investor visa, multi-purpose option, minimum 40,000 to 50,000 euros in a bank account, plus real estate, insurance, knowledge of German at A1 level. Can be issued in 3-4 months, operates on the principle of golden visa, without the strict requirement of presence in the country. Quotas on high financial security. Settlement permit, gainful employment accepted. For self-sufficient persons without a specific investment. Show sufficient funds, approximately 2,500 euros per month per person. After the residence permit and 10 years of legal residence, it is possible to apply for citizenship through the main naturalization route. In certain cases, for example, a large investment in the Austrian economy, 3 million to 10 million euros, a significant business project or outstanding merits in science, art, citizenship can be granted under an accelerated scheme after 6-24 months without the need for 10 years of residence. Investments from 3 million euros public sector to 10 million euros business, plus strict economic impact and job creation. The program is very exclusive. 20-30 successful applications per year, strictly limited by quotas, approximately 300 to 700 residence permits per year. In Portugal, the Golden Visa program, which gives residence permits for investment, is popular. But it is important to understand, it is not citizenship. Yes, after 5 years of residence under the residence permit, the investor can apply for citizenship, but only if all the conditions are met. Real residence, not just a residence permit, knowledge of Portuguese A2, tax history and integration. Since 2023, the rules have become stricter. The purchase of real estate in major cities, Lisbon, Porto, no entitles entitles to a residence permit. Main areas, investment in foundations, cultural support, research projects. Investing in 2025 is not a fast track to a passport, but rather a tool to obtain legal status in the country. If you are willing to live for a few years, learn the language, integrate and pay taxes, then investment can be part of your plan. If, however, you want an EU passport without moving and living, it makes sense to consider repatriation rather than financial schemes. Myth: it is enough to marry an EU citizen and you will have a passport in your pocket in a year. In practice, this is not the case at all. This scenario is one of the most persistent myths, especially among those who are not well acquainted with EU migration law. All EU countries have strict rules aimed at combating sham marriages. The reason is obvious. There are too many attempts to circumvent immigration laws through formal relationships. Here are the key conditions that apply in almost all EU countries. The marriage must be genuine. State authorities will check that your relationship is real and not entered into for the sake of gaining citizenship. This means interviews with migration inspectors, providing joint photos, receipts, correspondence, joint renting or owning a home, joint trips, children, bills, etc. Fictitious marriages in the EU are criminalized. In some countries, up to 5 years imprisonment and deportation. Cohabitation is mandatory. Even if you are officially married, you cannot apply for citizenship if you do not live together. Residence must be continuous, with registration at the same address, with regular updates of migration status. Period of joint life. From 3 to 5 years, citizenship is not automatically granted after marriage. You need to be married for several years in the country before you can apply. Examples: France, 4 years of cohabitation with a French citizen, 3 years if you live in France and have a child in common. Germany, 3 years of marriage plus 2 years of residence in Germany minimum. Spain, 1 year of marriage, but only if you have already obtained a residence permit and are in the country legally. Italy, 2 years of marriage when living in Italy, or 3 years outside the country, halved if you have children. In all cases, these are exactly the time frames before you can apply, not before you automatically receive your passport. Language and integration barrier. Even if you are married and eligible to apply, you must pass a language exam, usually a 2B1, pass a cultural, historical, and legal knowledge test, show tax transparency and no violations of the law. Checks at all stages. Migration officials may summon spouses for joint interviews, check the level of communication, household details, and the history of the relationship. In case of suspicion, administrative investigations are initiated. Important conclusion. Marriage to an EU citizen may simplify the path to citizenship, but it does not make it automatic. It is not a fast track, but a separate form of naturalization that requires time, real residence, integration, and documentation of all aspects of living together. Who the path through marriage is appropriate for: those who are already in a real relationship with an EU citizen and living in the country, those who are ready to build a full-fledged family life in Europe with joint life, taxes, cultural adaptation. Those who do not expect a passport for love but are ready for a multi-year process. If you see marriage as a tool, it won't work. If you are in a real relationship, it is important to do everything correctly from the beginning, avoid irregularities, meet deadlines, and prepare for integration requirements. In some cases, it is possible to obtain EU citizenship through special merits for athletes, scientists, cultural figures, France, Austria. Service in the army. Some EU countries provide for acceleration of citizenship for foreigners who served in the national army. Refugee status is a complicated and unpredictable procedure. Obtaining citizenship is possible only after a long residence and if all conditions are met. What to pay attention to in 2025? Check whether the legislation is up to date. Migration rules change frequently in the EU. Think strategically. It is better to choose a reliable, even if not the fastest way, than to lose time and money. Prove your origin. Repatriation remains the most direct way to obtain EU citizenship without residence. So, to summarize, in 2025, there are a few areas that really work. If you are seriously considering moving to Europe and want to choose a legal path to citizenship, start by analyzing your situation and documents. If you want to find out if you have a chance of obtaining EU citizenship by routes, through residency or other means, we can help you figure it out. Sign up for a free consultation at the link in the description. We will study your situation and draw up your personalized immigration plan. We will prepare a full package of documents, organize translations, legalization, submission. We take on all the work that can be taken on. You get the result. Thank you for watching this video. If the topic is interesting to you, subscribe to the channel and feel free to ask questions in the comments. We will regularly publish program reviews, answer frequently asked questions, and share important news on immigration law and life in the EU. Your path to Europe starts with the first step. My Citizen Agency is by your side, every step of the way.